Hey, what's up, my non-existent YouTube audience? Today, I wanted to make a video about the Stitcher, the infamous Stitcher. While it may have been the second or third gun you used in the game, if you're anything like me, it was probably your first favorite. The Stitcher for me is one of the best feeling guns in the game, and arguably it's one of the best PvP guns in the game as well. It shoots fast, it has controllable recoil, and it can down a raider with just one mag. At its worst, it's cheap, but still totally viable option for PvP. But when it's fully upgraded and kitted out, it is one of the best close to medium range options out there with a super fast TTK. The upsides to using the Stitcher are many, and its only real weaknesses are against large arc and at longer ranges. But this can be easily mitigated by bringing another gun along, which you're probably going to do anyways. Pharaoh Stitcher is always the go-to budget loadout that I'm sure we've all ran at least once. So if the Stitcher has almost no downsides, especially in PvP, why is the title of my video, "The Stitcher Has a Serious Problem"? Well, that's just it. The problem with the Stitcher is there is no problem. The Stitcher is a great weapon that has one of the cheapest crafting costs and upgrade costs. It has 4 weapon mod slots that all help to greatly increase the effectiveness of the weapon. An upgraded Stitcher at medium to close ranges can easily compete with Torrentes, Venators, Tempests, Bobcats, even Volcanos. I personally have downed raiders that were using all of those weapons with nothing but the lowly Stitcher, and I'm sure many of you have as well. Now, I'm guessing many of you are probably saying to yourself, that's a good thing. I like being able to compete, even if I don't have the money to run expensive loadouts every raid. And you aren't wrong. However, in looting and extraction games, economy really matters. If one gun is more expensive than another, and yet they both perform the same or close to the same, players are almost always going to run the cheaper option. I have a huge inventory of green, blue, pink weapons that I honestly hesitate to bring in because the Stitcher does just fine, and it's too hard for me to rationalize bringing in a Tempest that's 20 times the cost of a Stitcher just to lose it to some lucky jerk who has a Stitcher. You know, why not bring in a Stitcher myself and be that lucky jerk who gets to leave with the Tempest? And with that, my stash of Tempests grows larger and larger with no end in sight. The Tempest and the Bobcat especially just don't feel worth their increased cost over the Stitcher. Now, I know that some people want a Tempest buff instead of a Stitcher nerf, and I understand this line of thinking, but I think it's the wrong way to go about it. The time to kill in Arc Raiders is already pretty quick, especially if you're landing good headshots. Also, because this game heavily favors surprise and good positioning, if you buff the Tempest, you'll solve the problem of the Tempest not feeling worth it, but you'll lower the time to kill in all the gunfights, and in my opinion, make the fights kind of boring. The fights will just turn into you with the Tempest, hoping to blow up someone before they do the same to you. I love where the combat is in Arc Raiders right now. It is definitely fast-paced, but most of the time, you still have time to react and fight, even if people get the jump on you. And I think we should keep it that way. To highlight my point, let's take a look at this time to kill chart that I got off the Arc Raider subreddit. It's a little old, and it doesn't take into account the kettle nerf, so let's just ignore the kettle for now. This chart shows the time to kill of each weapon in Arc Raiders against a raider with a medium shield. The top chart is a tier 1 weapon with body shots only. The bottom chart has higher tier weapons and a 50% headshot ratio. I'm going to focus on the comparison of the Stitcher versus the Tempest and the Bobcat because I feel like those are the most comparable high tier weapons. As you can see, the Stitcher places top 5 on both charts, behind only the Volcano, Torrente, Tempest, and Toro on the top chart, and behind the Venator, Torrente, Volcano, and Bobcat on the second chart. Yes, the Stitcher is behind, but by not very much at all. With body shots only, it's behind the Tempest by only 0.31 seconds. And on the headshot chart, it's actually faster than the Tempest by 0.16 seconds. That's crazy. The Bobcat is harder to compare on the body shot chart because the Bobcat literally can't one mag a raider. Kind of embarrassing. And on the second chart, the Bobcat is barely faster than the Stitcher by only 0.11 seconds. A tenth of a second faster time to kill is not worth the 20 times cost of crafting. Not to mention hunting down blueprints, increased upgrade costs, and in the case of the Bobcat, literally requiring a magazine upgrade in order to one mag a raider. Give me a reason to use my Tempests. Give me a reason to use my Bobcats. The Venator is currently the only gun that I think truly shines above the Stitcher in PvP because it's much better at medium ranges and has a faster time to kill. But at least with the Venator, it's only good when you upgrade it to level 3 or 4, and so it requires much more investment than a Stitcher. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want the Stitcher to become nerfed into the dirt and completely unusable. But I think the way it is right now, it's just too good of a value to take in anything else and have it feel worth it. I think they just need to bring the Stitcher down a little. That's all I'm asking. I think the best way the devs could do this would be for a tiny fire rate nerf, like 10 to 15% fire rate nerf. I guess not super tiny, but I don't think that would really change the viability of the gun. It would still be just as capable. It still will deal the same damage per shot, but the extra time it takes to down raiders will make Bobcats and Tempests feel much better in head-to-head fights. I think skilled players will still use the Stitcher to great effect with that, but the playing field won't be so even, and that's a good thing. When you bring in your best goop, you should feel powerful. And yes, you should have a leg up on those who have invested nothing. I know people say that this drives away the casual player, but I promise you it won't. The casual player also wants to feel big when they pick up a Tempest. They want to feel like a hunky Chad who has got the best weapon in the game. Also, while we're on the subject of nerfs to gray weapons, I think they need to do a little bit of the same with the Kettle. I know I kind of took the Kettle out of the TTK chart and haven't talked about it too much, but it is still kind of a demon gun, and all of the arguments that you make against the Stitcher, you really can make against the Kettle as well. The only pass that I give it is I feel it needs a tiny bit more skill because you do have to click really fast while aiming, and that's a bit harder to use. Also, it reloads slower than a grandma with ankle weights. So you're way more constrained in longer fights where you have to shoot and then reload and shoot and reload, compared to a Stitcher 4, which is almost instantaneous. All in all, I don't want the Stitcher to be nerfed to the point where it feels like the Rattler, which is straight dog water. But at its current state, I feel it breaks the gun economy of the game and is just too good of a value to bring in any alternative. I think with just some small tweaks and maybe a few nerfs, the Stitcher can remain in its place as the affordable go-to for PvP, while also making it worth it for raiders to bring in their Bobcats and Tempests. Well, thanks for watching my video. This is the first YouTube video I've ever made, and I'm going to try and create one video a week. So if you liked it, feel free to subscribe and give the videos a thumbs up. Thanks for watching and have a great night.